Okay, the only piece of equipment you'll need to take this all apart is an Allen wrench. This is just a handle, but it's a standard size. We'll make sure we get it measured for you so you have the right one. And you bring that with you and have one at home. So this is an Allen wrench. We recommend that you take this completely, kind of a stripped down version before you take the bigger pieces off. So what that means is taking all the springs and accessories off. We've got leg springs, these can all come off. Set these aside. If you wanted to, if you don't have a lot of room, you could remove the accessory attachments too. So we've got the foot fuzzies. You can take your roll down bar down. Again, just for space saving and to make sure you're not bending the springs, I recommend removing the springs and having all of those springs specifically stacked together. When my husband and I have taken reformers apart in the past, we stack the springs up and we wrap them with like a saran wrap just so that they don't get bent and fall apart. But I stack them all together and wrap them. That includes these. That includes the push through bar spring, which is here. So we remove that a little differently. This, I think it's like a hex ring or a loop ring. Screws off. Again, goes with the springs. This can be removed, but we'll show you that in a moment. Take the chains off. I won't show that, but this will come off. And then you'll remove the back spring. Power circle. This all comes off. And it comes off with this hex ring. Pretty straightforward in removing this stuff. Then I take it all the way over to all of the reformer springs. So you take all of the reformer springs off, you unhook them, take the gear bar out, take the gear block out, the foot bar can stay down, remove the fuzzy strap, removing on each end, again, pretty self-explanatory if you've done the other ones. To remove the reformer springs, once they're clipped off of the gear bar, you actually want to go underneath. So if you want to bring the camera under here, these can bend a little bit just temporarily, where we bend them enough to pull them out from this ring. You can see where this gets unhooked. See how it comes off? And then it can slide out. We do that with each one. Okay, next you'll take the carriage off the frame of the reformer. In order to do that, you want the ropes completely removed. So this pushes apart and the rope slides through. There's knots on the end now, but we'll undo that, no big deal. But anyway, take the ropes out. So that these are completely free, empty. And you don't mind having the knots in here. Oh, wait, never mind. You don't mind not having the knots in there for your private view. Okay, the carriage comes out. It's angled in there so that the rollers can roll on the rails of the reformer. So when you take this off and place it back in, ideally the springs are off, partly because it makes the carriage lighter, but also because then when you're traveling with it, you're protecting your springs. So I'm literally gonna go up. I'm gonna go on the side that's opposite of the little hook, and you'll see this, we'll show you in the video. So you go up, and you angle it towards you. Just stand up.
How heavy is it?
Just notice that the springs are on it right now. It makes it heavier. I'm using my leg to prop it up. No?
No, but normally you wouldn't have the springs on.
Oh.
But yes.
Yeah, I thought you were saying cut.
Sorry, no. I just meant don't do it that way.
Yeah. Well, but when you put it back in, put the springs on after the carriage is already on your frame. So pretend the springs are off.
Right.
We're gonna put the carriage back in. So when you get home, you'll attach the springs back on once the carriage is in. You'll see at the bottom right, so Laura kind of put the camera on that. Do you see where there's like a little hook? That's what needs to hook into the silver bar. Can I point to that? Yeah. So this wheel is gonna go along the side of the reformer. This one rolls on top. So in between there is where that silver bar is gonna go, right there. That's where that silver bar goes. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So sometimes I'll just set it down first and kind of eyeball that. Okay, obviously it's gonna go about there, but you can angle it and then just set it. And it magically just drops
right in.
I don't try to make the hook go in there perfectly. I just angle it slightly and then I set it down, because if it's wrong, it just won't roll. When it's right, it rolls perfectly. It's as simple and as complex as that, but that's it. And it should roll without any sound, without any resistance. I already took the ropes out of the carriage, if you remember that part. I take these ropes all the way out, and this goes with all of your accessory pieces, so that's gonna come back later when you set your reformer up. And then we rotate this lefty-loosey to set on this ledge here. So loosen this. It'll kind of pop out without falling out. Set that down, and then you loosen the one on the left to set down onto the right. So this should be flush. Is that? Still have me recording? Lastly, you'll use the Allen wrench to loosen and remove this tower. So if you look down here, each of these screws need to be lefty-loosey, and they'll keep going around. And it'll look like this. Save these, bring a Ziploc bag, something, because I don't know where else you can buy these, honestly. But remove all 4 on this side, or remove all 4 on this side. That's the only thing that needs to be loosened, because this metal piece and bolt stays on the frame. I don't know if you want me to, do you want to loosen all of them and take, because once they're all loose, this will just lift up out of these holes and come off. I'd set that flat, not rested on the carriage, obviously, because it'll bend and dent into your leather. When you take it home, just pay attention to where this is pointing. You've got the bolts facing out. You've got the rings facing in, because it can fit in either way. These higher bolts are facing out. The lower bolts are facing in toward the carriage. What's that? Yeah. Set your rope, just set this over the post. The end goes over the white loop here. This end goes through this silver knob, then down into the hole here, okay? And then when you start pulling on it, usually it grabs on those fingers there, and then you're golden, it's in. We'll do the same thing with the other side, around the post, over the white loop here, through this silver bar, down this hole, and we pull, and again, the fingers kind of grab it. Now when we set this rope length, I don't like students to put the rope over that and then pull this tight, because you could pull it tight enough where the springs actually start to move, and then they end up uneven. So ideally, if this is too short when I first set it, I want this post set up with this bigger ring. See how there's a small one and a big one? Set up the big ring. I use 2 fingers to push these apart, and I loosely line this up over the post and then pinch it tight. I do it on both sides first. If it's too long, I can give this a pull underneath and make it a little shorter. Okay, then I bring it together at the middle to measure that the ends are the same. Sometimes just through wash and wear, these can be even, but the ends are not the same. We want them really to be the same at the end. So if this one's longer, I'm gonna shorten this one a little bit. Fine tune it by pulling on the rope underneath. Pulling on the rope, pulling on the rope. It's perfectly even. I hang it on the post, good to go.